step 4. Everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up.
Welcome to Tales from the Field. We are back and better than ever. My name is Bradley Ball, and it is so good to have you with us. Last week was an amazing week. We had Karen Lopez, 11-time Microsoft Data Platform MVP, NASA Datanaut, Senior Project Manager and Architect with Info Advisors on the show. Josh hosted. I was disqualified again, but thank goodness Andreas won. Where's Andreas? You might think he's the host, but unfortunately we have lost Andreas for the next couple Tuesdays. He will be on the Thursday show. In his place, though, we have the amazing and wonderful friend of ours show, Dan Taylor, Senior Azure Fast Track Engineer on our data team, aka DBA Bulldog on Twitter, getting his beard all ready for prime time. On Thursday, we had Chris Ayers, Senior Azure Fast Track Engineer from our Modern Applications team on. We also covered our community roundtable and all the wonderful content that y'all put out there. All of those links are available underneath the video on our YouTube page. You can find that over in the comments, or you can find that on my blog at sequelballs.com. If you haven't seen those episodes, don't worry. Stay right there. The show is posted to YouTube after we finish being live, and you can check it out at your convenience. Also, if you want to interact with the show, we are live on Twitter under Sequel Balls, Josh Ludeman, Niraj Jafari, Tales from the Field. On LinkedIn, we're live under Sequel Balls. Go to any of those places or to our YouTube channel and comment on the stream, and we'll see your comment, and one of my wonderful co-hosts will make sure it makes it onto the stream. Speaking of those wonderful co-hosts, before we go any further, let's do some quick introductions. We have Dan Taylor, Josh Ludeman, and he's dashing, he's daring, but you'll never catch him swearing unless Josh disqualifies him. The one, the only, Niraj Jafari. One more quick message. Don't forget, we are less than 2 weeks away from Live 360. Buck Woody, Josh Ludeman, myself, we have a pre-con, a ground to cloud, hands-on SQL workshop on Sunday. And then we have Mohammed Darb, one of our fantastic colleagues from the SQL product group, who has his SQL applications pre-con on Monday, and Tom LaRock and Karen Lopez have theirs on Monday, and then the conference begins in earnest on Tuesday. Go to aka.ms/live360 to be able to check out all that great content. Dan, you're the host. What is the topic for today?
The topic is an excellent one, and it was handed down to me from our good-looking host that couldn't be here this week. Technology fails. It's going to be technology fails, y'all. Josh, you're good-looking, but Andres just raises the bar.
I agree with that. I completely agree.
That's hard.
It's a good thing that Dan's the host. Otherwise, Josh would have already disqualified him.
You're right.
He's got a hair trigger over there.
DQ, get out.
Dude, hey, you can't disqualify me today, buddy. You can't disqualify me today.
I'm new on this show. I'm still trying to figure out why you're all not all disqualified. Like,
That's the host.
I need a button or something. Like,
only person get disqualified is Brad. That's the only person.
I don't think that's in the rules.
I think we need a new graphic where it's just DQ.
I mean, give it time. They'll be banned in the USA. Rick Springfield will be their new intro. So
maybe we should just.
I don't know if we got the rights to that.
Maybe we should just retab. We should just retab the Tuesday show to the Hunger Games. Who doesn't get disqualified by the end of the show ends up the next host.
I was going to say this is like Infinity War all over again. It's not who makes it. That's the story. As if it couldn't get any better than that. We have Pam Lahoud, Principal Program Manager from the Azure Data Platform team, leading up the Azure SQL VM team, aka SQL Goddess herself over on Twitter, renowned published author. I own a couple of Pam's books, and they are fantastic. Presenter at many international conferences, owner of the Double Sprinkles, my Microsoft mentor. Pam, welcome to the show. It is so good to have you.
thank you. So good to be here. I'm really happy to be in such distinguished company. So, what would you like me to talk about? You want me to talk more about double sprinkles?
Oh, well, I was going to say, you've got so much going on. You're so busy. You have a presentation at the Past Summit. You manage people. You're in charge of giving us more IOPS on Azure VMs, which you have just been doing like crazy, which I love so much. How do you keep track of everything you're doing?
Good question. Actually, Taryn is one of the new PMs on my team. I'm sorry, Josh. I know it's still
Taryn Pratt. I was gonna say, amazing at all things SQL. Wonderful addition to your team. I love her as a teammate.
Yes.
So
Missed.
And she's already got me more productive because she told me about this whiteboard thing called Fluid Stance is the name of the company, and I have this nice little desktop whiteboard, and that's how I keep track of everything. Double sprinkles and Sparkles. Actually, before Mohammed left the team, he dubbed Premium SSD V2 as Sparkles. So now you can have Sparkles on your double sprinkles VM.
I like who doesn't like Sparkles? That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, half of Josh's wardrobe choices are what's sparkly.
I'm down. I'm not sparkly today, but my nails are sparkly though.
I'm wearing sparkles and sprinkles to my next concert. Yeah.
Totally. So let me just get the business stuff out of the way. So the new double sprinkles news is that we have 2 new sizes, 96 vCPU and 112 isolated vCPU VMs. They're in public preview right now, announced at Ignite. And they go up to 260K IOPS and 8 gigabytes per second of throughput at the 112i. Yeah.
8 gigabytes per second. Oh my goodness. That is absolutely stellar.
All the throughput, all the IOPS.
I believe there's some great blog posts about this, and I know that we covered them in our community roundtable because they're just absolutely. Maybe Pam can help Josh answer the questions. What do managers do?
Josh has been a manager longer than I have, so no, I can't answer that question yet.
That was something that Josh brought it up a couple of weeks back. So.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we literally have a small clip for the show where he basically says that he doesn't know what he's doing because he's a manager, and so we all agree with that.
Right.
I don't agree with that, Josh.
No.
Sorry, Pam. Go ahead. I don't agree with that, though. I just have to put Mr.
No, what do managers do? They hire great people. That's their primary job. So I've got Taryn, which we talked about. I've got Aditya, who's also occasionally on Twitter, and I've got Ibru Ursan, who likes to sneak in the background and do her assessment magic from the background. But that's what managers do, is hire really good people to get the job done.
That's a good answer, Josh. I think you should use that next time, because that immediately is a compliment for me and Dan.
Josh hires great people because he hired Taryn first.
I hire great people that other people steal.
Yeah.
Look, isn't that a great compliment?
It is.
Wait a second. I've been on your team a really long time. That might not have worked out.
Okay, hold on a second. I have to stop the presses because, oh my gosh, look who is watching the show today.
Segura.
The man, the myth, the legend, the chicken.
The chicken is
we
here.
love you,
I had to time out for that one. Seeing Jorge back on.
Yeah.
I know he's a friend of all of ours. We haven't seen him in a while. It's good to see him out there.
Absolutely. The last time we saw him, he was dressed up as Prince for his birthday, and he looked phenomenal.
Saw those pictures. Awesome.
I was gonna say, what a great night that was.
Yes, it was.
Okay, so Pam, you were talking about the double sprinkles.
Yep.
So we touched a little bit on this, the 8 gigabyte throughput of IOPS. I've got a video. We haven't started publicizing it a whole bunch, but it was about how you actually use disks to be able to stripe them, to be able to get past the throughput limits of just the size, because sometimes people make a mistake and they'll go, oh, I just need a 4 terabyte drive. They go out and they grab a 4 terabyte drive. They don't actually understand the IOPS requirements that they had before they came to Azure, and then the IOPS requirements of how they can stripe those drives to get bigger performance. But that 8 gigabyte throughput, that gets into this key thing we've talked about with VMs, where you don't just provision CPU, you don't just provision memory, you provision that throughput from your compute to your physical disk to be able to make sure those things are working really well together. That's a massive amount. I mean, you've probably seen some really great speeds on disks.
Yeah, and actually we have a new benchmark coming out, and We're still even doing our benchmarks on the 32 vCPU VM because that one has like 4 gigabytes of throughput. And so that's also pretty awesome. So we've got some new benchmarks that are coming out. But the nice thing about the premium SSD V2, which just got announced, that's the sparkles on top of the double sprinkles or a cherry on top, however you want to do it. That allows you to scale each disk independently. So you choose the capacity, you choose the IOPS, you choose the throughput. So together, premium SSD V2 with these new EBDS V5 VMs, that's the double sprinkles VMs, together, it's going to be incredible. So I've got benchmarks coming out. I mean, just all kinds of good stuff. So hopefully by the time Christmas comes around, I'll have lots of Christmas presents.
So it used to be that customers would kind of get stuck based off the CPU and the memory together on what that IOPS level is. You just said the magic word right there. You get to choose your IOPS level.
Yeah, not on the VM, but on this SSD, premium SSD V2.
On premium
yeah.
SSD. Okay.
You can choose. You can choose. So, like, let's say you're not sure how much you need. You can provision them smaller, and then maybe you have we got the holidays coming up, right? So sometimes customers might have a lot more traffic around the holidays. You can scale it up, scale it down. You can size up the VM, size down the VM to get more IOPS or less IOPS depending on your needs. And with this new premium V2 storage, you can do all that on the fly on top of the double sprinkles VMs. So like I've just been saying, better together, EBDS V5 and SSD, premium SSD V2.
Really there's cool so many capabilities in there that you just described. There's so many situations where I always think about things as a SQL DBA, right? I sit there and go, I remember when to be able to adjust the IOPS, to be able to adjust the throughput for a drive, you're talking picking up everything, moving it to a different drive.
Yeah.
Now we have the capability of in-place IOPS upgrades.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. And look, it's amazing. We recommend PaaS for things, right? But not everybody can go to PaaS because they have these massive environments. There's hosting environments that they're moving from into Azure. And this gives them that capability now to be able to move these massive SQL Server instances in Azure and not worry about the main thing, IOPS. I mean, look, we started with 1 gigabit throughput, right? You're talking about 8 gigabit throughput. Now that's a win for our infrastructure. I mean, it's just come to Azure, y'all.
Yeah, it's a win for customers. It's a win for anybody trying to build things. And one of the things we've talked about before, right? When you come to Azure, when you come to a cloud service, you get these built-in redundancies that you didn't have. I remember working for very large-scale organizations where we had SAN mirroring set up, and that's a task. You need a team to be able to do that. But you could provision in a data center in Azure region where we have availability zones. And you could have those VMs be availability zone aware and have that support. And then, God forbid, something happens and a region goes down. It's always on availability groups for your whole data center synchronously. It pops up in another place. You're not even going to know that you're no longer in location 1. You're still up and running, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. And actually, we're about to release, this is something that's going to be, we're going to talk about at the PaaS Summit soon. We're about to release an end-to-end deployment experience where from beginning to end, this is actually one of the things Taryn is working on. You can just say, I want to deploy an availability group. We spin up identical VMs, however many you want. We put them into a cluster for you. We build you an AG. All you have to do is add the databases. That's right. Taryn's going to mic drop it fast.
Yes.
Well, thanks, everybody. Good night. We can't stop this. We're good.
No, is there anything else to say?
Pam wins. I'm sorry, y'all. Pam wins. I cannot tell you, Pam, how happy that makes me. So you got sparkles, sprinkles. I don't know what we're gonna add to that, but it's got to be something because
fireworks, Roman candles.
It's like a double sprinkles cannon because you can you can auto deploy like 4 double sprinkles VMs in one shot.
Because that is one of the things that Brad, Niraj, and myself work. Yeah. Hell has frozen over. Jorge, thank you. But that is one of the things that we get called in the most on from the Fast Track team is to be able to help with that. So I'm sad that you're kind of, but at the same time, it's going to make that customer experience better, and we can help promote that. Thank you to your team. Wow.
I'm not sad because I love being able to spin up things and demo them for customers. The capability to be able to spin that up quickly, and if you're a customer in a POC environment, just the capability to again set that up and have that ready to go, have that deployment experience versus going through the docs article. Okay, I've gone through this step. Did I meet all the prereqs? Let me go back through all of these. I love it. I love that automation. I love those capabilities. That is so fantastic.
And that's at Taryn Pivot on Twitter, y'all. If you don't follow Taryn today, at Taryn Pivot, follow her.
I'm gonna have to warn her about the influx of
and
coming her way.
I was gonna say you need to buy a charcuterie board from her. Some of the bowls, they're all really fantastic. She's an incredibly talented word worker as well.
Yeah,
not just a technologist.
Yeah.
So Dan, as the host, well, let me say first, Pam. Again, so much going on. Anything else you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about your sessions at the past summit or anything?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I've got a price performance session coming up Friday afternoon, last session of the conference, 4:15. And then Taryn and Aditya are going to be talking about the HA deployment experience. That's going to be an expo hall session, one of the ecosystem sessions, they call it. So it's a 30-minute session on the expo hall floor. And then, of course, we'll be in the booth. And I think actually Aditya might have a theater session too. I have to check in our booth. But so the three of us will be around, hanging out at the booth or doing sessions. So, come down, say hi, talk double sprinkles, sparkles, sparkle gun, whatever.
Absolutely. So my only request is for the next improvement. Could we have it double chocolate fudge?
Double
so that way
chocolate
we could have double chocolate fudge sprinkles and sparkles.
That's true. We need a little chocolate or peanut butter, something else in there to offset the
chocolate and peanut butter. Yeah, you're right.
And then the piece de resistance will you top it with bacon?
Bacon.
I'm out of microphones, or I drop another.
I was gonna say whenever we get to bacon, I think job done.
Next planning meeting, we'll discuss bacon and double chocolate and. Sounds good.
And then people will be hungry when they leave that meeting.
Yeah, for sure.
So Dan, you've got our hosting duties today. I love how this is kind of a spooky theme. We just got off Halloween. I thought we were all wearing costumes, but apparently not.
No, we just said that.
I got the memo.
We just said that about costumes just so you'd look ridiculous, and it worked.
I thought you guys were all dressed as Florida Man.
That's that guy. That guy's dressed as Florida Man. That guy. I've got my new hat from the
nice.
haunted house.
There you go.
At Disney. So I figured, there we go. Go a little Halloween themed. I can always do a wardrobe change too if something gets a little bit crazy, and then all of a sudden I can just be Minnie Mouse in the house.
Oh, nice.
I do whatever.
Yeah, a hat on point.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So Niraj, what about you? I see a soccer jersey there. Is that
it's a World Cup going on for cricket. And I'm just supporting the Team India. So that I was telling my kids who does not understand cricket at all. Being in US, they don't understand at all. So I was just telling them up, and they're like, "Oh, you don't have a jersey," so I just got a jersey for them.
Nice.
So Niraj, the funny thing where Brad and I worked at Publix, when it was the year that Pakistan and India played each other, and it was in the cricket finals, and it was this massive event we just got pulled into.
We had last Sunday, we had a match between India and Pakistan, one of the most amazing matches that ever got played, and we won.
Oh yeah.
Well, in sporting events like this, do that, right? So I was doing project work for EA, the company that makes FIFA. They also make an NHL game as well. And there was a huge thing where basically during the Olympics, it's been a few Olympics ago, but the U.S. and Canada played in hockey. And basically during that match, everybody kind of just left their cubes, and there was one of the main conference rooms, was booked out, and they used the projector on the wall, and they're casting the game, and everybody was just down there watching it because, sporting events like this, especially when you get with competing countries, man, it's just huge.
It's huge. It's huge. And so, but for as the host, I'm going to pull it back in there because we, I could talk all day. You know that.
Yeah, Dan, you want to do a quick explanation of the rules of the hosting competition?
So, if I remember correctly, right, the host sets the topic. That's me. So the topic today is going to be technology fails. The host cannot be the same from week to week. There will be a new host remembered named at the end of this show. We don't know who that will be yet. Y'all got to come out and do your thing. And points will be given by, I believe, myself, the host. And there may be one more that I'm forgetting.
So Pam, as the guest, can also award any
thank you
points that she would like as well.
Okay.
And it can be as little or as much as you want. 1 point, 2 points, 1,000,000 points, negative 10,000 points.
Yeah, can I do that? Okay.
So technology fails, real quick. An example for me is I was a PL1 programmer at one point, and I was very green, and I hit print on the code, and I printed out 13 boxes of sheets of paper for the code, and that was my technology fail, and that was within my first 4 weeks. So
negative 10,000 for the environment on that one.
I know. It's like I definitely, yeah, that was so bad. So like my whole career at Nielsen Media Research, I had a box on the floor that I used as my footstool, so I didn't waste it. So
there you go. Okay.
But from a technology fail perspective, Josh, let's start with you and tell us what's a technology fail on your part.
So I have one I want to go with, but the one you just said reminded me of one my uncle told me. So my uncle was going to college for, programming back when it was called programming, right? That long ago. And he was on his way to turn in his final exam before getting his degree. Like this was like his capstone for his degree. And it was in the punch card days, and he had a shoebox of punch cards, and right in front of the professor's door, he tripped and fell and spilled the punch cards out. No. So he had to go back and he pulled an all-nighter that night because he had to go back through and go with all the cards, put them in the card reader machine, figure out which one it was, and reorient the cards to turn it in, what ended up being a day late. Because he was turning it in on the due date when he tripped and fell, and then pulled an all-nighter to put him back in order to be a day late.
Oh, my God.
But for me, my technology fail is a company I was working at, and when anybody who works at that company, I tell this story, they're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But when I was working there, I was working on really deploying Hadoop clusters. HD Insight was early in its use, and the customer was looking to do more than what HD Insight could do at the time. So I was working on a template and deploying it on an airplane. So internet connection was iffy, but I ran the deployment. The deployment failed. Well, when I landed at home, it's like by that time, I think it was like 10:30 at night. I'm like, well, deployment failed. Closed my laptop, because we're on approach. And I'm like, I'm just going to, I'll figure it out on Monday. Well, I get in on Monday and I get a phone call asking why I blew out every dollar, I think it was like $20,000 in Azure credits that we had on our subscription in a weekend, and why I felt the need to deploy at that point. They were probably one of the most expensive VMs, the G series, and why I deployed, 5 or 6 of them for, this, and I wasn't even using it, and what the hell. And so once I explained, I learned a valuable lesson that when you're deploying a template that is about installing software on VMs, when it says the deployment failed, it doesn't necessarily mean the VMs didn't deploy. Always go back and check. There you go. That's my technology fail.
Ouch.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, negative 20K for the spending of money.
I own that. Yeah, every penny of that. Negative 20,000. Totally agree.
But I did give you 250.5 points for sharing a family story. So.
Yeah. No, that was always my favorite. He told me that when I originally went into the field. He's like, don't spill your punch cards, even though I know this isn't a damn thing anymore. Don't spill the punch cards.
We have come so far from punch cards to 8 gigabits per second.
Wow.
All right. So, you know what, Josh? That's a good one. So you got like negative 19,000 something points because you spent a lot of cash. Brad, what have you done?
All right. So
Nothing.
I have actually blogged about this long ago when I was more active in T-SQL Tuesdays and things like that. So there's a company that I worked at with Dan, and when I first came on board, one of the things they did was they sat me down and they said, "Hey, after you've looked at our environment for a month, we want to get your thoughts and things we should change." One of the problems that they had was they were using the same Windows AD account for all of their SQL Server deployments. And I said to them, hey, coming from the Army and the Office of the President, one of the things we always did was every single Windows AD account for each box was specific to this. I said, as a matter of fact, we went even further and we had a separate account for the SQL Engine service and we had a separate account for the agent service. So that way, if one was compromised, it wouldn't compromise the other. And that way it would also
But you made them all domain admins, right?
No, absolutely not. No. So I got that's a good idea, but we don't have the time really to do that. We'll look into that. Maybe that's something we'll change in the future. So keeping that in mind, they also didn't use Microsoft Windows clustering, and they had a lot of failover clusters. And so what happened was they had to roll their own heartbeat. So there was, I think in SQL Server 2008 R2, there was a change from 2005. And what it was if you typed in a password, even if that password was wrong, it would attempt the login once for each possible service that could have been selected. So even if you said just install the database engine and the components under the database engine, it would attempt to connect 6 times. Whereas on SQL 2005, that would only attempt to connect 2 times. This is important because where we worked, there was a rule in place for AAD where if your password failed 6 times, it would lock out the account. So I'm doing this and we don't get to store the passwords. I contact the person, I copy and paste from Notepad. Maybe I had a white space in there and I put it in and it says login failed. And of course, I'm like, ooh, no, that's not good. Okay, well, this is my second try. I know this only tried 2 times. I didn't realize that it had tried 6 and I went, let me punch it in again. And now it failed. And it had this different thing telling me that the service account had been locked. And I went, oh, because that managed about 546 SQL Server instances that were on failover clusters in active production environments. And so because the health check they had created, it used that SQL account to log in, run the health check. Well, the login failed. So the health check failed. So what do? Well, you take a perfectly well-running SQL Server and you do a failover to a node.
Fail it over. Oh,
where
no.
it can't bring up the SQL engine. And so there
no.
was so much separation of duties here. I am on the phone. It's our lunch hour. I'm on the phone with the help desk so I can open up a ticket so I can get someone to reset this. People, the password probably was disqualified. The people are running, like other DBAs are running around in the background. There's a tally of a board. I hear them answering phone calls. Yes, we are aware this is down. We are working to resolve this as fast as possible. We're so sorry about it. Yes, we know this is down. And I mean, it's like, this is down, this is down. Put this on the board. And I'm just sitting there on hold, listening to music, waiting for the, and I'm like, eventually, I think I grabbed somebody and I said, hey, we know the people who can do this. They're in this building. Can we not get somebody on the phone to do this outside of this ticket? I'll get the ticket created, but we need to get this service reset so the password works. And that's the other thing is we need an exception because we need the old password in place.
Yeah.
Because everything in production, otherwise we've got to do a production code migration to every single instance to get it back up and running. I think that the 2 managers that were like high enough level were actually having lunch with one another. One of them gets a phone call and goes, yep, they're going to do me a favor and they're going to tell their guys to reset this right now. So I stay on hold. Systems start coming back up. I get the ticket created so we have the proper paper trail for that. But lunchtime, I crashed 546 SQL instances in less than 5 minutes.
And then you say, I told you so.
Well,
about the
so,
account.
so to be fair, then I proved out the fact that this was a new thing from 2005 to 2008 R2. So I still had a job. So then I could go, hey, maybe we should do that. That was fast track. That was immediately adopted after that.
Nice.
Every new instance had new accounts, so that way,
Brad,
it can
there's
never
an
happen again.
easier way to get your way than to take down the whole damn thing. You know.
I know.
You can be such a child sometimes.
Well,
And I know your parents, Brad, and I know you, and I love you. I love you very much, and we're brothers from another mother. But because you made me have to query 500 and something, or I'm sorry, like 5,000 something plus databases, I'm disqualifying you for today because of the nightmare that ensued.
the trauma
So,
that
the
that's fair.
trauma
I'll
that
accept that.
still is stuck with me.
Take note, Ludeman. This is how you actually disqualify a person. I'll show you how I disqualify a person in real life.
I stand by every disqualification of you I've ever done.
It was just, if you've never been yelled at by a New Yorker in your life, that was the day to get yelled at by this beautiful New Yorker that was our manager or director. So, I'm sorry, Brad. I gave you points for being able to resolve it, and you just stick through in this, but I gotta disqualify you.
I feel like I'm starting a trend. I love this.
Yeah, so
is it the third time he's getting disqualified, right?
I'm not even the host and he got disqualified. I love this.
I know this is the first time, and sadly the last time Dan will be invited back to host. I mean, what? No, we should probably get to Niraj. Niraj, what's your technology fail story?
So I know every bad story has Halloween candies, so something for the host. Anyway, so my horror story is something that you should be really careful. Like every technology fails really goes crazy. I had in my previous job, we had a reporting tool that was built, a good solution built on the reporting tool, which was used by the sales guys and all of them. Now the CEO and the CSO were going to present to the press all the numbers and all that stuff, and that they're going to use the live software to go and present the numbers. Now my manager is like, it's going to be live. Make sure you present it out. I was going on a vacation the very next day, and I was like, I have to do it. So I just relied on my colleagues saying, can you take care of it? Make sure that everything is in place. Nothing is in there. They go live. 5 minutes. They were very happy presenting it out. Press was impressed. 5 minutes later, the whole software crashed. Everything went down, and it could not come back up again. And the problem that when we started debugging it out, it turned up that the software was memory optimized. The software needed more memories, and the programmer who wrote it down did it the other way around. Instead of using less memory, he wrote a really bad code that kept on using a lot of memories in there. The horror story of it was that I was going on vacation, very excited to go on a vacation, spend up 80 hours, not normal 40 hours. I spent 80 hours just working on finding a solution and getting a way out of it, so that in the next week, I can present out to the CEO when I'm back to it, saying, why did it fail at that point of time? My wife was like really mad at me. I mean, I remember we had rented a speedboat, and I was going to be very, very excited to drive it up. It ended up like I made my kid and the wife drive the speedboat in the thing, and I was on the phone with my colleagues and my development team saying to figure out what was going on. So that's
man.
So
that is rough when you're weekend, your vacation.
Yeah.
Plans.
Wait, so you were troubleshooting on the boat? You were on the boat?
Yeah, I was on the boat, on the phone.
All right, come on. That's worth some points right there. Troubleshooting.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, what candy do you have? I was going to give you points for that.
Every candy you want.
Okay, so 1,000 points for working on a speedboat, another 1,000 points for solving the issue, another 1,000 points for being there for your team, and 25 points for the candy. So 3,025 points for that Halloween story there.
Well done. I was going to say, by that total, I take it the winner is?
Well, I'm looking here and tallying up, and if you have things to say, Pam, while I'm tallying up, please, if you have a horror story. But
yeah, sure. I got a quick one. Although you guys were all ones where you broke stuff. My story is about something where I fixed it. Is
Well,
that
that's because you're amazing and you're supposed to be working
Does
at
it
Microsoft.
count?
The rest of us just made it through the cracks.
I was going to say this is all sprinkles and sparkles and stuff. That's the difference.
quick story? I was when I was a field engineer, my boss called me up. It was like 3 days before Christmas or something, and he's like, "You've got to go to Ottawa tomorrow. You have to go." I'm like, "No, it's Christmas. I'm supposed to be off." He's like, No. You have to go. They can't solve it on the phone. Application is down. You've got to go to Ottawa tomorrow." And I'm like, "Oh man." I'm like, "I don't want to go." He's like, "You have to go." Great. So I go up there, and they had only one day to troubleshoot this problem because I guess the whole office was going to be out and they weren't going to be using the application. So this is the only day you can troubleshoot. I had to be on site. I show up. I'm like, "What's the problem?" Every time we install a backup NIC into the SQL server, the application goes down. I'm like, "What do you mean the application goes down?" "Well, no one can connect to SQL server." I'm like, "Okay, so you installed a new network card and now no one can connect to SQL server?" And they're like, "Yeah. And when we disable it, everyone can connect to SQL server. And then when we enable the NIC, no one can connect to SQL server." I was like, "Okay, did you check the firewall?" And they're like, "What firewall? Like, we already set all the network fire." I'm like, "Wait, the local firewall. Did you look at the local firewall?" And they're like, "Well, it works when we disable the NIC." I was like, "Okay, let's look at what happens when you enable the NIC." Well, the backup NIC was set to the public network property, and the original NIC was the private network. So on the private network, the firewall was wide open, but on the public network, it was all shut down. So as soon as they enabled the backup NIC, the public profile took over and shut down all the ports. And as soon as they disabled it, the private took over and all the ports were open. Magic. So 2 ways to solve it: disable the firewall altogether or make the backup NIC private profile, and magic, everything worked. Problem solved in an hour, and then I got to go home. Merry Christmas.
Wow. Merry
Well,
Christmas,
Nice.
indeed.
Pam, if you were on Tales from the Field, you would be our winner because you solved it in the most amount of time. But I do have to give the win this week to the person of the hour, Niraj, because
Suck it, Ludeman. My favorite hosting show is one word. Josh isn't the winner.
always disqualify.
Disqualify.
Excellent work, Tal. You know what? Those were awesome technology fails, folks.
Yay.
This is why you come to Tales from the Field, to listen to this, to hear from experience.
Thank you.
Hey,
Well,
I may have negative points, but at least I wasn't disqualified.
well, I may have been disqualified, but if you take the disqualification, my points are ahead of yours. So,
Yeah.
all right. Now,
Disqualification means nothing.
yeah, negative points means nothing. It's horseshoes and hand grenades. Niraj won.
Less than nothing.
Way to go, Niraj!
Congrats,
Yay,
Niraj.
Niraj. All right.
Thanks, Paul.
So, couple reminders real quick. Thursday is our community roundtable. Make sure and join us. Hit any of us up on Twitter. Do you have content that you want to share with us? Tails TF from Tails TF Field. That's our Twitter account for the show. But you could also go to Sequel Balls or Josh Ludeman, Niraj Jafari, DBA Bulldog, Node Stream.io, which is Andreas. Any of us, hit us up. We'd love to share your content on that on the roundtable. The past summit. That is less than 2 weeks away. A reminder, if you're attending that virtually, there is a session that the Tales from the Field team has recorded on Azure SQL migrations. Make sure to check that out. Live 360 is less than 2 weeks away. We talked about it at the top of the show. We hope to see you there, me and Josh Ludeman and Buck Woody. At the same time the past summit is going on, we are going to be, Josh, where will we be?
We will be at the beautiful Lowe's Royal Pacific Resort and Conference Center on the luxurious grounds of Universal Studios, Orlando, Florida.
I know. I can't wait. We've got a Voodoo Donuts, so many great restaurants, so many great rides.
I can't wait till they start paying me for this endorsement, too.
Will there be double sprinkles on the Voodoo Donuts?
Oh,
there
yeah.
can be.
And there's going to be great
technology fail again.
Surprisingly.
Oh, and a strip of bacon if you buy the right donut. Just saying.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you again to our guest, Pam Lahoud. It was wonderful to have you there. Gentlemen, is there anything else you can think of that we need to cover?
I was just going to say thank you, Pam, for coming to see us and bringing all the sprinkles and sparkles and everything with you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Well,
Stay healthy, y'all.
see y'all on Tuesday. Take care out there.
Bye.
Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up. Today's gonna be a